Good evening, folks. This is the Factivist Project with the Factivist Report live stream for Sunday, the 16th of October. We're going to turn it right over to Dave.
So I think that it's important to look at history every once in a while, because Deb and I and others like us, I think we got caught in a propaganda trap a few years ago, and we have to look at our recent history to really see where we've been and where we're going to go, before anybody thinks that we are going to have an easy go at this. Even if we have a really productive election and a lot of the Republicans are voted out, we still have a ton of people in the U.S. House who say they believe that Trump is the real president. We're going to have people who contest or fight or whatever results they are if they lose. We're going to have a lot of that. And we still have a lot of people from a party or from a movement that you thought was gone, didn't exist, which is the Tea Party and the Tea Party movement, which started in 2009. And what may have started as this economic argument, or this group that was arguing about taxes and overtaxation, that's really not what it was about. What it was about is fighting against a black man who was president. That's really what that was about. And it turned very ugly very quickly. And you'll see over time how that movement devolved from 2009 and eventually became the MAGA movement. So, Deb, would you like to say something before I start?
Yeah, so let's talk about the Tea Party.
Yep.
The Tea Party Foundation, for example, was a leading supporter, financial supporter of America's frontline doctors,
Yep.
Which was at the height of COVID, was one of the major misinformation spreaders throughout that whole process. Simone Gold, who was the head of America's frontline doctors, was on the payroll of the Tea Party. She was an insurrectionist who served time in jail for breaking into the Capitol. There is nothing more that I can tell you other than that the Tea Party spawned the MAGA movement. And right now there is a book out there about the GOP and how it has always flirted with extremist groups and actually empowered and invited extremist groups in. John Birch Society was one.
Right. Yep.
The Tea Party was another. Hey, our good friend, what was his name there, that invited the Tea Party in to eventually they ousted him? He was a member of the GOP. He's the one that enabled the Tea Party to come on in. I said his name the other day. I'll be damned if I can remember it. Boehner. It was John Boehner who invited the Tea Party in.
Right.
A life raft to them, brought them into the party, cultivated them, and they eventually moved him out because he wasn't extreme enough.
Right.
So they have always flirted with this. It should be no surprise now, given their history, that the MAGA movement now owns this party. That all started with the Tea Party movement. And by the way, there is no equivalence for this in the Democratic Party. There is none.
Right. We have two senators right off the top of my head. And we have Rand Paul and we have Ted Cruz. Both products of the Tea Party. So I'm going to start this off.
You forgot
Ron Johnson?
Marco Rubio as well.
Rubio, yep. Marco Rubio is another. Now, this is an article from almost a year ago, and this is basically talking about the whole MAGA movement, the whole, Trump won the election, and all that stuff, the all the, insurrectionist stuff. And this is from Adam Gabbett. It's November 1st, 2021. So actually, yeah, it's almost a year ago. Almost 33%, almost 1 in 3 Republicans say violence may be necessary to save the United States. Do you realize how many people that is? And
I don't think that's abated either.
no. Researchers of the Public Religion Research Institute, which is a nonprofit, found that 30% of Republicans agreed with the statement that because things have gotten so far off track, true American patriots, and by the way, this is the rhetoric over and over again, American patriots may have to resort to violence in order to save our country. So the troubling statistics show the post-election rancor that led to the violent insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. I'm not going to talk about the hearings today, but trust me, we'll get to it. Among Americans who believe the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump, which it was not, 39% believe violence may be required. So it's alarming, possibly, but let's see how we got there and where we got there. And by the way, again, we said it over and over again, Trump is the guy who lit this fire and poured gasoline on it. He's the guy.
He's the igniter.
So here are a couple images. I'm not going to put this in the sources, but this is just a couple of images. We've taxed enough already. So we have the Tea Party movement, National Socialism, Democratic Socialism, Marxist Socialism. Basically, what the Tea Party started as was a movement against Barack Obama. You can talk about overtaxation, but it really was about Obama and a black man becoming president of the United States.
Right.
Because eventually, very quickly, you went from Tea Party and tea bags and taxed enough already to images to Barack Obama with a giant watermelon in his mouth.
Well, Barack Obama wasn't born here. He's a Muslim.
We're going to get there too.
Promoted that.
The birther movement was part of the Tea Party movement.
Right.
And by the way, in 2011, that is when Donald Trump started becoming involved with Tea Partiers.
By the way, that article right there that this picture is from,
yep.
That would be a good article.
Yep.
People for the American Way is a very good organization.
You know what? Let's click on it. I might use that as the so there you go. What the Tea Party's really serving America. And this is 2011. So
like I said, you can't understand where we are until you understand where we have been.
So here you go.
Happened.
Fighting the 14th Amendment. By the way, Mike Lee, that was a big part of his thing in Utah. So libertarianism without liberty. So this is actually looks like a book or, like a whole big thing. So this is actually probably really good. And I'm going to leave that in there, actually. I don't know what the report is about, but this looks pretty cool. Tea Party movement. So basically, again, it was a fiscally conservative political movement that started in 2009. Some of the people that came out of this, you have, as Deb said, Marco Rubio, Glenn Beck was huge in this thing too. So we have, I think this is pretty cool. You have different think tanks, organizations, media, blah, 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 blah. So this is where we start getting into where the MAGA movement is going down the path that the Tea Party started. So the phrase "the Tea Party" has since faded from the scene. Let me see. Ron Elving, May of this year. And this is from NPR. The phrase "the Tea Party" has since faded from the scene. The congressional caucus that went by that name has been largely inactive for years, but the political ferment and aid and fervor that once associated with that label have grown more intense as they were reshaped by former President Trump. Today we have the MAGA Make America Great Again. So that's the new thing, and they're big into acronyms. Tax again already, or tax, yeah. So there you go. It's in and its influence on the 2022 midterms seemed destined to track that of the Tea Party surge in 2010. I don't know about that.
No, I think that what they're saying at the bottom in that paragraph is very true, though.
Yeah.
The one difference between the MAGA
Yes.
movement and
Yes.
the Tea Party is that the Tea Party didn't have one leader for them to grab onto.
Correct.
They were driven by their hatred for Barack Obama, basically.
Right.
But the MAGA movement, they have they're literally, if you can believe this, they're literally comparing Donald Trump to Jesus. I just can't even, it would seem like, something you could laugh at if it wasn't so fucking scary. And if they really truly didn't believe that way.
Yep. So again, the Tea Party name was a slogan taxed enough already, and then a reference to the Boston Tea Party of 1773. So again, you have this reverence for the Revolutionary War, and you're basically comparing the Democratic Party to the British. They're not part of the country, really. So we have, this is another thing with the Tea Party movement, just explaining a little bit more. And yeah, we talk about, so there we go. Key players in the Tea Party movement. Former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin, who is running for office now against Peltola. Senator Jim DeMint. Former House Republican leader Dick Armey and Glenn Beck. If you remember, there's somebody who is another media person, Dana Loesch. She came from Glenn Beck's little network. We have Chris Christie, Michelle Bachmann, Rand Paul, Joe Miller, Marco Rubio, Christine O'Donnell, Ken Buck, Mike Lee, Pat Toomey. Now, some of these people have since gone away, but they have been replaced. So here is Dana Loesch. She came from a show called The Blaze. I'm just saying, she's out there. Glenn Beck is out there too. The media nonsense grows. The stupid thing with the gun, I don't know what that's about. She talks about,
that's how they define freedom.
Yeah.
Everybody on the right defines freedom by your ability to wave a gun. That's an actual fact. They consider the Second Amendment the defining amendment for freedom. End of story. It's pretty basic. You don't need to do a whole lot of thinking about these people because they're very transparent.
So here we go. I just want to read this mostly for the Fetterman stuff, but the media blames pro-life for having a diaper shortage. When did this happen? Okay. Meanwhile, John Fetterman's wife trashes the NBC reporter who interviewed her husband. What I would say is no. There was a little argument about the focus on him using the closed captioning. Now, it's good to have that out there, and it's good to have people understand it. But at the same time, you had right wingers, try to crush John Fetterman because he has to use closed captioning for the moment because he just had a stroke. The man is running a campaign and he just had a stroke. That,
The man
to
is
me,
not only running a campaign, but he's also the lieutenant governor of his state.
yes,
And he has returned to his job. And he is capable of doing his job. And we won't talk about how the right wing had no problem covering up for the fact that they had somebody with fucking Alzheimer's disease as president. And we won't talk about how they covered up Addison's disease and John F. Kennedy.
right.
You know what? Enough. We know the guy had a stroke. He wasn't quiet about it. It was wide open.
And
It's like someone breaking a hip. Okay.
Right. He's spoken openly about it. And thanks, Deb. You did bring up a fantastic point. A lot of these guys are in office while they're running a campaign. So not only is he in office currently, he's running a campaign and he's recovering. And he's being open about it and letting people know that he is capable. Period.
And you know what? Here's the bottom line. Okay. Any one of us can drop dead tomorrow. Okay. Yep. You know what? Enough. You want to fight on the issues? I have no problem. But you know what? The basic gist of all of this entire midterm cycle has been that the GOP has absolutely nothing to run on but smear campaigns and garbage.
Yep.
They do not run on issues because they cannot speak to the issues because they don't care about the issues that face the American people. What they care about is winning. End of story.
Oh, can I say one more thing? Yep. If anybody else talks about ableism when it comes to friggin' disorders one more time, I'm going to go nuts. Someone, well, I'm going to name his name, Tim Black. He criticized people in the media calling Herschel Walker stupid, and he said that it was because the man has a disorder. No, it's not. It's because he's stupid. Okay.
What disorder does he have?
Dissociative, whatever disorder.
Multiple personality disorder?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, he's ignorant. Okay. This is a man who said that Joe Biden's climate bill was about buying trees.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
This is a guy who can't tell you anything about the Constitution because he doesn't know anything about the Constitution. It's a guy who lied about graduating at the top of his class when he didn't even graduate. Herschel Walker is the architect of his own fucking misery. He's ignorant.
Right. And by the way, there are people out there who have disorders. I have a disorder and I have a master's degree. Okay. Just because you have a disorder doesn't mean that you're not intelligent. I hate that crap too. And by the way, again, just because you have a disorder doesn't mean that you can't do a job. The reason that Herschel Walker can't do a job is that he can't process information correctly. That's just me. Hopefully people feel the same way.
By the way, someone should point out to Tim Black that Herschel Walker himself stated to the media that he wasn't smart enough to debate.
Right.
That came out of his own fucking mouth.
His own mouth. And this isn't racial either, by the way. I don't want to hear that garbage either. So I like this. I like this article. This is from the New York Times, A Strange History of American Conservatism. This is by Jonathan Rausch in April 19th of this year. And it talks about the MAGA years. And it talks about the evolution from the Tea Party, where it was kind of this buttoned down bunch of like business guys. And then all of a sudden it just went nuts. So the Tea Party in its early days was anything but MAGA-like, dominated by white college-educated professionals and small business owners who were fed up with politicians' broken promises to shrink government. It was the first grassroots movement to take reducing federal spending seriously. In Phoenix, yes, in Phoenix, at what they billed the first national policy conference, partiers gathered for seminars on topics like the Constitution's Ninth Amendment and the gold standards. Sure, some of their ideas were screwy, but they were striving earnestly to restore what they thought was the vision of their founders. But then you had this other faction coming in was more radical, and eventually this is where we went. So another faction was vying for control, interested in cutting immigration, not the budget, more focused on America's complexion than its constitution. At a plenary session in an acre-wide convention ball, I watched as the Republican president of the Arizona State Senate, a demagogue named Russell Pierce, and he's important, galvanized the crowd with a lacerating attack on illegal migrants who he said were breaking into our country and stealing it. Then he talks about supporting the sterilization of Medicaid recipients, and then lost his seat later that year in a recall election. But he was not an outlier. Then his rhetoric was shocking. It's mild compared with quote unquote rapists and criminals calves like Cantaloupe's Muslim band and more that followed. So he started this whole, downfall of civilization with his crap. He started, or he was part of the Arizona transformation into insanity. But here's the thing: just because you recall one guy doesn't mean that you don't have others waiting in the wings. Carrie Lake is a dangerous individual, so you know.
She is a dangerous individual, and she's dangerous enough to have gotten the attention of none other than Liz Cheney, who has stated that she will do everything in her power to keep her from winning the governorship in Arizona.
So this is Joe Arpaio with Russell Pierce back in 2012. So here's some of the rhetoric back in the day. This is March 20th, 2010. Okay. Right-wing figures call for riots and revolution, use other violent rhetoric. Okay. So this guy Owens, jackasses who call healthcare a right deserve to be drawn and quartered. Sarah Palin, don't retreat, instead reload. Mike Huckabee, remember Mike Huckabee? Members of Congress should be tarred and feathered as the original Tea Partiers would have done.
Yeah, maybe they should have tied and feathered him.
Dick Morris, those crazies in Montana who say we're going to kill ATF agents because the UN's going to take over. Well, they're beginning to have a case. This is in 2010. Okay, so this is the start, and there's more. So, here we go. Glenn Beck, portraying Obama as and Democrats as vampires, suggests driving a stake through the heart of the bloodsuckers. Okay. September 18th of this year, once McCain's party, Arizona GOP, returns to its far right roots. Now, this again is evolution from the Tea Party days back 10 or so years ago. And so I just mentioned Glenn Beck talking about driving a stake through the heart of Obama and Democrats. Carrie Lake, we drove a stake in the heart of the McCain machine. Same exact wording. So this is a right-wing article. Edward Tharp back in 2013. It was updated in 2019. Okay. So they're talking about the violent left-wing rhetoric. Basically, what the left-wingers are doing, if they're calling the Tea Partiers terrorists and things of that nature. Angus King called Tea Party conservatives murderers. So we're just, I don't know. I think the thing with the left rhetoric, you may call people names, but you're not calling for them to be executed. This is the Tea Party Patriots page. This is their actions page. I'm going to get off of it because I'm not, this is what they do. They do a lot of what we should be doing. Is trying to get their message out. We need to get our message out. These are 2022 endorsements. So we have United States Senate. We have Katie Britt in Alabama, Blake Masters, who we talked about, who, by the way, has been talking some violent stuff. He took his abortion stuff off his page. John Boozman, John O'Day, who I don't know, Marco Rubio, Chuck Grassley, Rand Paul.
He needs to go.
He does. Eric Schmidt, Adam Laxalt, another one that needs to go. Ted Budd. J.D. Vance should not, hopefully he's not going to win. James Langford. Mark Wayne Mullen, someone I don't. Mike Lee, this guy's been in since 2011. He's another one that needs to go. Same thing with Ron Johnson. This guy is floundering. Well, we need to keep him from floundering and keep him out. And here's some U.S. House Rep people. Dale Strong, Eli Crane, Kelly Cooper, Juan Ciscomani, Kevin Kiley. Most of these guys, you notice, are white dudes. Tom Petty, John Duarte, David Valdado, Matt Jacobs, Mike Garcia, Kim Young, etc., etc. There's a ton of House reps. Okay, you can take a look at it, check them out, and freaking vote against them. I don't know what else to tell you. So this is this is an article from Vox, January of right after the insurrection, actually, saying that Donald Trump is the accelerant for this violence. A comprehensive timeline of Trump encouraging hate groups and political violence. And this goes back 2015. Well, actually, yeah, related. Trump's long history of racism from the 70s to 2020. But 2015, Trump announces his presidential bid, quickly suggests violence as the answer to opposition. If you remember, back in the day, we take him out and we beat the crap out of him, whatever. That stuff. Calling Mexicans rapists and thugs. Not all of them, but so Trump threatening to physically fight BLM, etc., etc. And as I said, Donald Trump actually met with the Tea Party back in 2011. And here was another person who met with the Tea Party back in 2011. I mentioned her last show. We have Catherine Engelbrecht, a Texas mom turned election fraud crusader. So
the Tea Party Patriots are very much alive and well.
Yeah.
They are major donors to this particular MAGA
Yep.
scenario here. The
That-
Tea Party is actually donating quite a bit of money to the Senate races.
Yes, and I have that article in here. Also, the action page that I showed you was from the Tea Party Patriots. They're very active.
Yeah.
They are a 501c, or they are a PAC actually. So this woman has been active in the whole voter integrity movement, which basically means unless we win, there's no voter integrity.
Right.
That's basically what her, and she was a big proponent of the Trump won movement. So I threw this in here. This is a byproduct of some of the violence. Far-right mama bear accused of a wild plot against an old friend. This is a live streamer from Iowa, vocally against mandatory mask policies. She filed a false report of sexual abuse within her former business partner's family. And they found...
Now, there's just no level to which the right will not stoop. It's amazing.
By the way, the allegation was that her business partner, her son, sexually assaulted her. The man doesn't have a son. I'm just saying. And that's her mugshot, by the way. Gotta make sure she's smiling for the mugshot.
She's proud of herself.
Yeah. So let me see her. It's hanging a little bit. So false allegations, again, you're not, you're that's not beyond the realm. So, So this is, again, for the New York Times. As right-wing rhetoric escalates, so do threats and violence. As I just showed you. The DOJ and the FBI are corrupt.
Just
Anything that they do.
It's not that Donald Trump stole documents he shouldn't have taken. It's that the DOJ and the FBI are victimizing him. This is such a crock of shit. It's not even funny.
Yep. So, all right. Let me see if I can. So in late June, a former Marine stepped down as Grand Marshal of a July 4th parade in Houston after a deluge of threats had focused on her support of transgender rights. A few weeks later, the gay mayor of an Oklahoma city quit his job after what he described as a theory of threats and attacks bordering on violence.
And you know what? That's exactly what they want. Those are the responses they want.
Right. They will continue. And the guy running against Rand Paul, he did an ad where he had he's an African American individual. He had a rope around his neck, and people flipped out. What's wrong with that? You might as well you might as well call them out on their racist bullshit.
Right.
So
these people are ugly,
No.
They're really ugly.
Oh, right. GOP takes a dark turn with violent images, enemy within rhetoric. So we're talking about the Republicans with their rhino hunting ads and things of that nature. Rick Scott talking about the enemy within. all this stuff. I can't remember who's this guy hunting rhinos. We
Greitens.
talked
Eric Greitens, he lost.
Greitens. Yeah, he's out. That's right.
He's out, but he's
But
out
he will
because
be
he's got a long history of
Yeah.
scandal.
Now, Adam Kinzinger, again, another person who left. I understand it, but he's actually rewarding these guys for doing this crap. Also, what he has said is that all of this, the insurrectionist stuff, it's not going to organically go away, and it's not. You have to fight it.
Right.
But what I will say, this is not right, what is being done to Adam Kinzinger and others.
And his
with it.
wife and his kid. He
However,
threatened his 5-month-old baby.
right. However, where was he 10 years ago? Or I don't know how long he was in office. These guys who are getting forced out, they are partially responsible for their own party. Partially. Now, I'm not saying that this is right. It absolutely isn't. All right. Now we get to the money.
Those who are, I understand why they're walking away, but they're giving the party to the right wing.
Right.
The fact of the matter is, though, I'm not sure if they stayed, they wouldn't have any power.
Right. I understand that too. At this point in the game, no. But it's possible maybe they should have fought. I'm not saying, I don't think Kinzinger's been in that long, but back in the day, you should have fought the Tea Party back in the day, as it went too far. So here is Richard and Elizabeth Euling. They are the largest donors to the far-right candidates. They are Tea Party people. And they have contributed millions of dollars to Senate candidates in North Carolina, Missouri, and Arkansas. So, and this is donations mostly to PACs, but maybe some direct donations to candidates as well.
By the way, Kinzinger assumed office on January 3rd, 2011.
So there you go. In 2011, why? I don't know how hard he fought against the Tea Party as they grew with their rhetoric. So maybe he was alone. Maybe he didn't fight it at all. I don't know. But
let's look realistically. Okay.
Yeah.
How long has Liz Cheney been in? A while.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reality is that on a voting perspective and on an issues perspective,
right,
Liz Cheney voted 93% of the time with Donald Trump.
Right.
Liz Cheney's problem is the insurrection.
Right.
And where that has gone to. So all of them could have fought against the Tea Party. But the fact of the matter is, these people weren't leadership of the Tea Party or weren't leadership of the GOP at the time. And there's a leadership that let them in.
Right. Yeah. Now, the new Tea Party are these 147 Republicans who voted to overturn the election results.
By the way,
these people need to be voted out.
Now. Take those 147 now.
Yep.
There's now 199.
Right.
Because of the people running.
Right. Right. So these are the people who are currently in. I don't know who's left already, but if you notice, some of these guys we've mentioned. Rick Scott, we have Ted Cruz.
They're pretty much all still here right now.
Yep. Now, take a look also at the states. Arizona is huge. We mentioned Arizona. We have 4 actually, but I think California has a ton too. Texas, a shitload actually. Florida has a ton. Yep. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gates is there. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12. Texas. Well, Louisiana. Yeah. Texas. I noticed Texas had a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 16. 16 Texas U.S. House reps. And you had Ted Cruz also from Texas. So how do we, you can't fight all of this all at once, but how can you fight it? I have a few volunteer pages here. So we have Mary Peltola. A lot of this is through something called Mobilize. So we have, virtual events, phone banking. Some people have text banking available. So
Mary Peltola will keep, she has won the special election. She needs to run again. She is the first Native Alaskan to win. She needs to stay in office. She needs to keep Sarah Palin out.
Sarah Palin has a second bite at the apple. Do I think Sarah Palin's going to win? I don't, but we need to make that a reality. Again, Sarah Palin, one of the original Tea Party people. Katie Hobbs.
Okay. Katie Hobbs, by the way, was the Secretary of State who certified the election for Joe Biden.
Yep.
That is why she is being targeted the way she's being targeted by Carrie Lake, who she is now running against for governor. Katie Hobbs needs to win this election.
Yep. So this social media, supporter toolkit, et cetera, et cetera. Different ways to do it. A lot of this is, supporter videos. So there you go. Then we have Charles Booker, who's running against Rand Paul. This is, I like this one. You give out your information and sign me up for text messages. I'd like to help with phone banking, canvassing, community mobilization, issue-based organizing, which most candidates aren't really doing much, is postcard writing. If you really want to do postcards, it's probably getting down to the deadline on that. Because I know Deb's done it. I have 2 more
pages to go, and I have to have them in the mail by October 28th.
Yep.
But, I'll be home all week, so get those done.
Right. By the way, Deb is not feeling well, and she's still doing this. Just like Mr. Fetterman is recovering from his stroke, Deb is in the middle of not feeling well. So this is the Fetterman volunteer page. Okay. So I'm going to leave all this stuff in here.
The best thing about Fetterman, he's not your typical candidate, no matter what side of the aisle he's on.
Right.
Really not. He's pretty average guy from from the perspective of where his mentality is. The thing about Fetterman that we should not be surprised about, them attacking the fact that he is infirmed right now, because you'll remember they considered people with disabilities undesirables way back in the Nazi days as well.
Right.
Those people were targeted. I'm telling you, folks, none of this is a drill. None of this is a joke. This is all happening in real time. It's not shit that we're making up. It has been in front of your face now for over 2 years. Okay. If you can't see it, it's because you are choosing not to see it, but that will not make it go away.
What I will say about John Fetterman and the Oz campaign is I'm hoping, and I do believe, that Mehmet Oz is shooting himself in the foot with his attack on Fetterman's infirmities, because number one, supposedly Dr. Oz is a doctor, number one, and number two, we're not living in a bubble. There are people living in Pennsylvania that have health issues, that are working class, that are blue collar, that are working through injuries or workers' comp, or have COVID, or had a stroke and they're trying to get back to work, or whatever. So this could very well, hopefully, backfire on the Republican Party. And by the way, Fetterman has a job. He's doing the job right now with his infirmity. So for Dr. Oz to say that he's not able to do it, he's doing it now.
It's Dr. Oz that's not able to do the job because he's unqualified to run for whatever the fuck he's running for. He's not a legislator. He's a fucking peddler of fucking supplements.
Right.
What makes him qualified to do this job? Nothing. He doesn't even live in Pennsylvania. He's a carpetbagger. Okay. He's got 18 properties. He's got properties in Miami that they gave him a tax break on. He's not paying taxes on other houses. You know what? He's an elitist pig.
Right.
I'm sorry, folks, but Dr. Oz, I don't know where Donald Trump dug these people up from. I'm pretty sure he can see a grifter. He can recognize a grifter when he sees one. So,
and make no mistake, Fetterman is skewering the hell out of Dr. Oz. It's like he continues to say it, and he continued to say it. And maybe his wife did say something about the interview, but I get, she's going to defend him as she feels that he's being portrayed incorrectly. But he said, in a few months, I will be recuperated more, and Oz will still be a fraud. He used that a bunch of times, and he's right. So that's what I have. What I have to say is, we have to continue to not only vote and get the word out, but also pay attention to what legislation is going to be coming out. Pay attention to what's coming up in the Supreme Court, which we'll be talking about, after everything. Pay attention to new media. In a couple of weeks, I'll be doing Right Side Broadcasting Network. You got to pay attention to all of this garbage, so that when we're asked about it, we'll have a valid answer about why it's garbage. So, and we'll see. My thoughts about next week. Maybe I'll do something on the final January 6th, hearing, because there was a lot in there, and we need to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll hear more. We'll have more information before the end of next week on several fronts.
Right. And also, we at the same time, we have to continue to at least talk about candidates. Kerry Lake, extremely dangerous. I didn't really talk that much about Mastriano, and I don't know where that article went, but Mastriano is talking about anti-Semitic garbage.
I have it.
Yeah,
Got it.
but
Put it in.
he is. I mean, even the Republicans kind of were taken aback a little bit. Now, is that going to kill his campaign? I don't know. I hope so. The guy's a bigot and a nut.
If the Republicans were taken aback by it, they would have pushed back on him. The fact of the matter is, they can all be taken aback all they want, unless they call these people out in their own party, which they are not going to do, because that's not the Republicans' way. The Republicans' way is to cover up as quickly as they can. I'm sorry.
And by the way,
they should throw a lot of these people out. A lot of these people shouldn't even be running.
Again, the violent rhetoric about with Trump about Mitch McConnell having a death wish and calling his wife racial slurs because she's Asian. I don't know. Is she Chinese?
I don't know. He called it chow chow something.
Chow chow. Oh, she is Chinese. She's Chinese. But it's like, come on.
Did Mitch McConnell even say anything?
No, he didn't. Not a
word.
freaking word.
He's a political coward, is what he is. He's afraid of anger in the orange jackaloon.
And I don't understand. Listen, I don't know. I'm not in there, and I wouldn't want to be at that Thanksgiving dinner. I just got to say, it's like if I was his wife, I don't know. Maybe I'd be filing for divorce. It's like, you're not even going to stand up for me. To me, that makes no sense. Or maybe she's a political coward too. I don't know. But if you don't stand up, when you don't stand up, you allow it. And you're showing yourself as a racist. Even Clarence Thomas, he didn't speak up against interracial marriage, or speak up against the fight against, making interracial marriage illegal. He's married to a white woman. Okay, despite how evil and how much garbage she is, it's an interracial marriage. You should have the right to marry, with outside of your race. And you should be able to marry whoever, whatever adult you need to marry. And, again, they want to bash all of that, but they're not going to bash child marriage. Again, I know it's a small percentage, but I don't care. One allowed marriage with a child is too many in my eyes.
Well, to me, the ultimate is Marjorie Taylor Greene calling for the Supreme Court to overturn same-sex marriage as she's divorcing her husband and has had multiple affairs.
Right.
To me, that's the ultimate hypocrisy. Don't talk to me about being a Christian or adhering. Christian nationalism has nothing to do with being a Christian. Not one fucking thing. Okay? It's code word for fucking fascism. All right? It's a code word for fascism.
I have seen it in politics, and I've seen it in the workplace, and I've seen it in life. Those who judge others typically do whatever the hell they want. They don't follow the rules, and they try to rule other people. To hell with you. Let me live my own life. Don't worry about what I do.
Worry about yourselves.
Worry about yourselves. I don't care if you're having a billion affairs. That's between you and your husband or wife or whatever. I don't care.
In short, let me put this as bluntly as I can. Mind your fucking business. Okay?
Exactly. And with that,
we're done.
We say goodbye and have a wonderful, whatever. And we will see you next week. And maybe that should be our tagline. Guys, have a wonderful week and mind your fucking business.
There you go. Yep. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
90.